Welcome to the 7th Annual Dr. Phillips High School Air Force JROTC 9/11 Memorial Tribute. We thank you all for coming. I'd like to give a special thank you to all the police officers, firefighters, and military members who serve and protect our country every day. I'd also like to thank our principal, Dr. Suzanne Knight, for her support in putting on this ceremony. Unfortunately, she could not be here today. I'd also like to thank all the first responders that are behind me who are in attendance today who took the time out of their day to support us. Vehicles and personnel from the Orange County Sheriff's Office, Orlando Police Department, Orange County Fire and Rescue, and the Orlando Fire Department. At this time, if you're not already, please rise while we present and raise the American flag while the national anthem is played by the Dr. Phillips High School Band Ensemble.
Wait!
Squadron!
Send cut! Present! Arm! Present! Arm! Order! March! Parade! Rest!
This year is the 20th anniversary of the attack on our homeland. September 11th, 2001 was a beautiful, sunny, cloudless day. Our sense of being invulnerable was shattered when 2 aircraft crashed into the World Trade Centers in New York, another crashed into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and a 4th crashed into a field in Pennsylvania. About 3,000 people lost their lives that day. In the war on terror that followed, many more have been killed, maimed, or injured in Iraq, Afghanistan, and elsewhere around the world. As we continue to remember this tragic day, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Orange County Undersheriff Mark J. Canty. Undersheriff Canty was raised right here in Orlando, Pine Hills to be specific. He ultimately felt a calling to law enforcement where he started a 22-year career with the Orlando Police Department, rising to the rank of Deputy Chief. In 2016, as the commander of Orlando Police Department SWAT team, he orchestrated rescue efforts at the Pulse nightclub shooting, while also ensuring no more innocent people were killed. Finally, in 2019, Orange County Sheriff John Mina appointed him to his current position as Undersheriff of the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Undersheriff Canty has always been a proponent of reaching out to young people before they get in trouble, as well as building better community relationships with local law enforcement. This devotion, along with his leadership by example attitude, has set him apart throughout his career. Please welcome Undersheriff Mark Canty for his perspective on 9/11.
Good morning. Thank you. On behalf of the Orange County Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Mina, I would like to thank Dr. Phillips High School Air Force Junior ROTC for allowing us to be part of this sacred celebration. Today is such a special day because on September 11th, 2001, our country was attacked by terrorists. When I'm asked to think about that day and remember that day, I look back on where I was. I was a young police officer. I'd been on the Orlando Police Department for about 5 years. I was at the Lake County Sheriff's Office gun range, training with the SWAT team. When we started to get calls about what had occurred, it was fortunate we were able to cut on the TV and we were able to see the second airplane strike the towers. Of course, we sat in utter astonishment about what was going on. Could not believe that someone would attack our country. Eventually, we were called back to the Orlando Police Headquarters to make sure that the city of Orlando and surrounding counties were safe. That's what I was doing that day. But I think what I was doing was very, very insignificant. You look back, look at the unselfish acts of all the first responders, police officers, firefighters, EMS personnel that ran into those towers, possibly knowing that they were running to their death. Seeing the tremendous amount of damage and carnage to those towers, they didn't hesitate. They weren't looking to be heroes. They weren't looking for fame. They were fulfilling their calling. Their calling was to save, protect our community. And they ran into those buildings unselfishly to save as many people as they could. And unfortunately, many of them lost their lives that day, and some in the future. So that's one of the things I think about. Another thing I think about is all the people in those towers. 3,000 people between the towers and the airplanes and the Pentagon that sacrificed their lives for our country. Some of those people did heroic things, some we may never know about. They helped their fellow citizens try to escape those burning towers or the Pentagon. I think the one story we do know a lot about is Flight 93. Where those people, knowing what had occurred, made the decision that they were not going to be used to attack other American citizens. So they fought back, knowing that their efforts would probably result in them losing their lives. But they made a decision to protect other people in our country. That is an unselfish act. That is why we're here today, to honor them. And finally, when I think about that day, I think about how our country responded. We had probably not seen anything like this since Pearl Harbor, World War II. The level of patriotism that came in the days after September 11th was tremendous. People came together. You saw American flags everywhere. People helping each other, thanking people for their service. Dozens, thousands of men and women joined our armed forces just for the opportunity to get justice for those 3,000 people that died on that day. And it didn't matter. You talk to any of those people, anybody responded. It didn't matter what they looked like. It didn't matter what the victims looked like. It didn't matter what color they were, what ethnicity they were, what country they were originally from, what their gender was, what their religion was, what their political affiliation was. All that mattered was they were Americans. And it's our duty as Americans to protect other Americans. We are the shining light in this world. So for the last 20 years, the men and women of our armed forces have put their lives on the line to make sure that there was never another attack on this country. And they've done an outstanding job. So many of them have laid down their lives to ensure that we can gather at a place like this today, that we can attend school, that we can go to work, we can go to entertainment venues without the worry of being attacked. So today, as we honor those who lost their lives on September 11th, 2001, don't just remember them. Remember what they stood for. Remember what they died for. They died for the ideals of the United States of America, where anybody can come here and make a better life for themselves. Our country is built upon life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Freedom is not free. And from time to time, people must sacrifice for that freedom. Sometimes that sacrifice means giving their lives for us. So today, when we think about those people, don't let them die in vain. Remember their sacrifice for our freedom. Remember what they stood for. Remember what this country stands for. And remember that when we want to come together, we can come together. There is nothing stronger than a United States of America. We're the most powerful country on the planet, not because of the arms that we have, but because of the ideals that we have and the principles that we hold. That's what makes us different than any other country. Our country is built upon different people, different races, different groups. That's what makes us special. Those differences are what brings us together. Those are what makes us strong. So today, please remember that. Please make sure that the 3,000 people that died 20 years ago do not die in vain. Remember their sacrifice. Remember the sacrifice of those that go out every day to keep us safe, whether it's our military or our first responders. They are the true heroes, and they are there for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Under Sheriff Canty. It was an honor and privilege to have you here today. We appreciate your insight from that day and about that day. And thank you for making time to be a part of this memorial tribute. Now, Ms. Mariah Williams, a Dr. Phillips student, will sing God Bless America.
Wing!
Squadron!
Then hut!
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the nights with light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Today, as we commemorate the 20th anniversary of 9/11, we remember the people that sacrificed their lives for us so that we can continue to live our American dream. Some were innocent bystanders, some were doing their job, but all were courageous heroes. At this time, about the time the first airplane crashed almost 20 years ago, please reflect on the tragedy of the day with a moment of silence and the playing of taps to honor those who died that day.
Wing. Parade. Rest.
As Under Sheriff Canty alluded to, it's important that we remember this horrific day. Remembering not only honors the victims, but also the survivors. Remembering brings healing. Remembering helps us to learn from these events and to strengthen our resolve. Please take some time on this anniversary to think about America's liberty and your freedoms. It has come at an immeasurable cost. The blood, sweat, and tears of fallen, yet victorious Americans. Let us never forget. Thank you all for coming. This concludes our ceremony. You all may depart at your convenience. Cadet Wing Commander, dismiss the wing.